Yet another interview, this time with my man Travis Gibb. I'm Chris the Longbox Punk. Thanks for hanging out and checking out another indie comic interview. Travis, dude, what's up, man? How are you?
I am great, man. It's a great, what is it, Tuesday? It's a great Tuesday. I know this is airing another day, so I apologize for those stuff. But it's a great day. Tomorrow's a big day for me. We've got, obviously this will be launch of Granite State Punk, but also my book Coins of Judas is going to be in comic stores. So it's like a double whammy, like comics palooza around the
just shooting them everywhere, right?
Everywhere, yeah. We even have I've been delayed on a Kickstarter for Cthulhu Invades Neverland, which is a book we've had forever, and it was overseas. It took like over 45 days. It's finally here, so it's crazy comics right now. Like all of it. It's wild. It's awesome.
That's a good problem to have. When it rains, it pours comics. So I will take that any day of the week. So tell me, before we get into the Granite State Punk stuff, like tell me about Coins of Judas. How did that end up in shops tomorrow? Like, what's that process been like?
Yeah. Coins of Judas book from Band of Bards. It was really funny, because Granite State Punk and Coins of Judas kind of has this symmetry together. Mm-hmm. They're always launching around the same time and doing stuff. I signed my Scout gig because Granite State Punk, if you don't know, it goes to Kickstarter and then it goes to Scout Comics. Like right after I signed that, I signed this deal with Band of Bards. Band of Bards basically came to me. I submitted a one shot to them, like for an anthology, and they're like, "No, we're rejecting you." I was like, "All right, that sucks. That's bullshit." And then I read the rest of the email, and the email was like, "But we would like to make it a whole series. Can you do that?" I was like, "Okay." So we talked about a budget, and then we figured out we did. We've done 4 issues so far. And this issue coming out is issue 3, so it's really, really cool that we did a Kickstarter for the whole trade earlier this year, but it's just wild and super fun. It's so different though, because like Granite State Punk is in Kickstarter, then goes, and then this is the first time anyone's going to see it. Like it's coming straight to them
That's cool. Yeah, the Band of Bards, man. I've gotten a couple books from them. And like they're super cool as a company, and everybody that I've talked to that like has done any work with them always is just nothing but like, yeah, they're super rad. Like Band of Bards, Lesser Known Comics, Scout, Bad Bug Media, and Mad Cave are the ones that like I've talked to people that are all like in the organization somehow. And like, it's great for me on being on the outside and just reading the books to hear people that are on the inside. Like, yeah, man, it's been a cool process. Like, can't believe that they're like, no, but also like, I can't imagine the tension.
It's so weird being rejected and then like getting a bigger gig. Like, I don't understand it. I don't like it. It's weird. You mentioned Mad Cave. It happened with Mad Cave too. Like I sent them a picture like, no, we don't like this pitch. I was like, that sucks. But skip the whole thing that everybody else has to go. We want direct pitches. Here's some pitches. Why don't you talk to us and send us? I was like, oh, okay. So it's a good experience. I guess I got to figure out how to just get in the first time and figure out this whole reject thing. But if rejecting gets me more books and like solo issues, I'll take it every time.
Yeah, absolutely. So what's the and I might be getting ahead of myself. What's the difference with working with Band of Bards versus Scout Comics? Like how do they differ organizationally?
Oh yeah, they're night and day. So Scout, they're a machine. They kind of do their thing, and they're kind of and I'm not saying this to be offensive to Scout, but they're kind of like an IP farm. Like they get stuff and they go on the next thing. That's not really a relationship, where Band of Bards is more of a relationship of like, all right, we're going to do this. How does this look? What does it go through? What the process is and building that. So they're 2 different animals, but they both have their pluses and minuses. So though I have that better relationship with Band of Bards that I can build stuff, they also have less direct market presence because they haven't been around as long, right?
Got it.
Where Scout has a lot of presence, but they don't really talk to me. They kind of do their thing, And neither company has done me wrong. I know that there's been some stuff with Scout where people have been done wrong. And I know same thing in Band of Bards. There's always these wrongs everywhere. But I have been super blessed And I think it's just because, and this is a humble brag. I think it's because my books sell at both places. So you don't have as many problems when your stuff at least sells, right? Like, and I'm not saying that some of those books aren't great that didn't sell, but I think that's just the difference. And I also really knew what I was doing before I got in. I wasn't like I had studied, I had talked. David Byrne for Scout and Charlie Signey, both are my friends. I talked to them on the regular. So I kind of knew what I was getting into. So when I signed the contract, there was no surprises when this happened or that happened. So I didn't get mad about anything. I was just like, okay, cool. Let's go this way and this way. So I think those are the difference. But it's all a different thing. Kickstarter is way better. It's directly to fans. It's doing stuff. But obviously my goal, I don't know if you know, I'm one of those few people who I don't want to stay indie forever. I want to write my superheroes, man. I want to talk about Ghost Rider. I want to write some Spider-Man, some Magneto, some Nightwing, some Turtles, man. I would kill for a Turtles gig. Let's go.
It's funny you mentioned Turtles. I talked to Gavin Smith was at the Cincinnati Expo this past year, and I was like, dude, I bought a Last Ronin print from him, and I was like, all right, let's be real. How freaking sweet is it to be in? He didn't even let me finish. He was like, dude, it's so badass. It is the coolest thing to get to work on Turtles books. And he was like, I grew up, reading them, watching the cartoon, and now I'm the name on the cover of the book. And I was like, dude, that's gotta be I can't imagine as a creator being able to get to the IP that you grew up reading. Just the idea of that is just staggering to me. So
and for me, it's more personal. I need to get Turtles. So if you don't know, Granite State Punk set at Rochester, New Hampshire, which is the sister city is Dover, New Hampshire, which is where the Ninja Turtles came from. So growing up at my age, because I'm 45 years old, I'm old, an old ass punk. These guys were there. These guys are making it. They're right there in Dover. They're here making indie comics, And by the time I could grasp what that was, Image became a thing, right? And we had the Tick, which is a New England comic. So for me, indie comics was the thing. But to write Ninja Turtles and being so from that area of you guys were all everyone around us talked about it. It was such a thing. And before everyone else knew about it from the cartoons and the movies, we knew about it because it was in the paper and they were talking about it. My parents talked to me about it. I met them at comic shops and they taught people how to draw, it's so impersonal. In fact, I'm so close. Little insider tip for artists, guys. IDW, you can get a Turtles cover for relatively cheap. It'll cost you about $3,000. You'll get 250 copies is what it costs you. And as long as you're a decent artist, you can get a Ninja Turtles cover. I am this close because I can draw mean-ass Ninja Turtles of getting my name to have a Ninja Turtles cover just for fun. So $3,000 entry, I was like, maybe I'll just do
it. Right. Maybe I'll just pull that trigger and
pay to play.
Yeah, absolutely. So you mentioned Granite State Punk. So you've got issue 4 that is, as of the publishing date of this interview, is live on Kickstarter. Tell me about this campaign, about this issue. I, not to just humbly brag, but I was the guy, right, that's been reading these books. I freaking love these books. This is right up my alley. Immediately I was like, oh man, Granite State Punk, that's New Hampshire. I got family in New Hampshire. Punk, that's my lot. Let's go. And so super stoked with what you've put Zeke through so far. And I'm curious to hear just a bit of what you've got planned for him with issue 4.
Yeah. So, when I write Granite State Punk, we have 3 things that we try to accomplish. One, I try to deal with some emotional garbage, whether it's always with Zeke. Zeke's got to go through some emotional progression, and sometimes he fails, sometimes he doesn't. Number 2 is we always have to have some historical, Granite State Punk, Granite State thing, and then we have to have a punk rock thing. So this is the first issue which doesn't have heavy supernatural stuff. There's no ghost, there's no monster like we've done in the other 3. But we do have a semi-monster that if you're writing punk and you're serious about writing punk, you have to deal with the elephant in the room, and that is Nazi punks.
Yep.
That's our thing. Skinheads, white supremacists, punkheads, skinhead punks are there. They exist. Anybody's been to a punk show? If you've listened to punk rock music, you loved it. There's been a time where you've listened to a skinhead punk album. You're like, this is a dope ass album. For a little bit, and then you start doing some research. You're like, oh, I hated them the whole time. I swear,
they're the worst. Yeah.
They're the worst.
Yeah. Hey, give me Josh Groban over that every day.
Because they're just as angry. They're just angry at different things, and you got to do a little bit of Google searching to figure out what they're angry about.
Yep.
I wanted to address that. I wanted to address that stuff and really do a heavy music-based issue. You know, obviously music is a big part of the whole thing, but we really wanted to do that. We introduced some characters in the Coven, so we continue to play with those characters. We have young Zeke coming back. He's there. We have Cassandra, who we saw at the end of the last issue. And one of those other two characters is in this issue as well. I don't want to spoil too much about that.
Sure.
We kind of address where this Coven is and kind of building up the things, you know. And this issue is really about Zeke becomes happy. And what does that look like? And you'll see a lot of parallels. If you read issue 4 and then you grab your issue 1 and you read them, you'll see, oh, some of this is Zeke. And I want to get that, you know, because everybody who I've ever known has a pattern, right?
Yeah.
You get into a relationship, it goes from here, it goes to here, it goes to here. And those are the patterns until one day you break that pattern. And normally you either fall in love or it's a horrible breakup. And the people you date from then on out are completely different. The outcome is one of the two.
That's exactly right. Yep.
So I wanted to explore that. So we're going to explore it. Now you're going to see, all right, Zeke's in a relationship. He hasn't been in relationships in issue 1. What does that look like? How's that? It's really exciting and building towards issue 5, which is the trade. And we're super excited. I'm super proud of this issue. It's a lot of fun. It's pretty epic.
That's awesome. And not to based on what you've already released, taking the subtitle from SLC Punk, is just like peak. You probably can't see it because of the glare, but that right there is an SLC Punk print. Nice. It's the only one I've ever seen at any convention ever. And I was like, I don't care how much it is, I have to buy that. That movie just still, when you talk about, what movie wrecks you? That one. That's the movie. I wasn't ready.
Yeah, I mean, clearly the handprint of SLC Punk is in this book completely. Yeah. You know, Zeke is very much like Steve-O. You know, he talks third person, yells at you, makes you think about it. You know, I follow that guy on social media every time he talks about it. He just recently posted. I don't know if you know this, but Sony had a comic book. There's a comic book for SLC Punk that was a promo piece. Yeah, it's a promo piece, and I want it so bad. And he's like, hey, I've got a copy. I can scan it. I was like, dude, I will publish it. Let's talk. Let's get this going. Let's go.
Yeah.
He's my goal. My goal is when issue 5's done, he will do the forward in the trade. I don't know what it takes. I mean, assuming he likes it, of course.
Right.
But he is my hard pitch for it because SLC Punk was hugely inspired. You know, I had never seen, I was a huge film buff. I went to film school and watching SLC Punk, I had never heard someone speaking to me and trying to explain the world around me better than Steve-O, right? Because he was explaining the hypocrisy of what's going around him. And then, you know, the poser part of it, you know, that a lot of hardcore punks are he sold out at the end. I was like, yeah, but we all sell out at the end. Right. What is that? But it's all different to everybody. And I just love the truth of it, you know, instead of a normal art piece, which is he doesn't sell out and they live happily ever after. And, you know, it doesn't work that way. And I just love that. And it was heavily inspired. In fact, I went to Salt Lake City once and my whole goal was to find a punk. And I was so depressed. I didn't see him the whole time I was there. And then when I was walking out, there was a guy with a mohawk at the airport and I rushed him and I was like, oh my God, you exist. Is there a scene here? He's like, yeah, there is. Come with me, young man.
Right. Where's the show in the basement? I need to know.
Right. And I've seen a lot of Mormons yelling at me, but I have not seen a single punk.
Well, so that was the first movie I ever saw with Matthew Lillard in it. So when I saw Scooby and he was Shaggy, I was like, Shaggy doesn't have blue hair. like I still see him with the giant, like,
Okay.
14-inch mohawk
Nice.
that he has when he's like, I'm 18, I can do what I want. And like, jumping on the couch and stuff. And his parents are just like, you idiot. And I was like, yeah, I wasn't that dramatic, but like I basically went through that same thing with my parents, even up to the blue hair.
It's such a perfect, because young punks are so Matthew Lillard, right? They talk tough, but they're not tough at all. Like my punk friends growing up, we're not tough. they just wanted to solve the world's problems and like talk about it and be angry about it. They didn't really want to do anything about it, but they wanted to talk about it. They didn't want to go to a political class. They didn't want to be class president, but they had something to say.
Yeah.
So they're like, if I wear enough shit, people come and talk to me and go, why are you wearing all that shit? I can spew my stuff with them, and then we can move on with our day.
Yep, that's exactly it. Yeah, I don't care who you are. If you're going to come talk to me, expect to hear my opinions.
Right.
And now, like, I've done the sellout thing, but for me, it looks like I just keep my mouth shut like 90% of the time, contrary to doing this show. But like in conversations, I just don't talk. And I would rather like just push people's buttons to get them to talk and be like, oh, you do have opinions. Okay, cool.
I mean, punk is so beautiful, especially as I've been an adult and gone to punk shows, and you pay attention to a lot more things as you get adults, you have children, you see all these children in the back who are brought to punk shows at such a young age, and they're protected from the pit and all these things. Yeah. And it's just, and you don't see that in any other music. I go to any other genre of music, kids aren't there, but they're welcome. They, obviously they have the spot, but they're protected, and other punks are rallying against other punks who may have accidentally got too close to a kid, shouldn't have been there in the first place. But like, there's not that, like, don't bring your kid here. It's like, all right, half of us got to protect the kids, half of us got to deal with the younger punks, half of us got to realize whether or not we're too old to be here and fight about it. The rest of us are just mad that there's no PBR. We have to buy Bud Lights, and we're paying $12, and we don't understand what's happening here, and we're mad at the venue.
Yep. Man, that's like the last 5 concert experiences I've had. Except I'm the point where I don't want to spend like $14 for a craft beer. So instead, I'll buy one beer and then I'll just refill my beer can with water so that I still have the like, but it's just water because I gotta hydrate. Like, I'm not 20 anymore. I can't just go sweat 17 pounds in the pit and be okay with it. I gotta like stand in the back by the mix and just stand back there and enjoy the music instead of just being nonsense in the pit.
IPAs make me so mad. It just does. And I know that young punks love IPAs, so I'm trying not to judge them. I just like, this is so far. If we're trying to get it special, that's so far. No, it's supposed to be, what is the cheapest thing that we can drink and ingest? Yeah. Nobody likes PBR, but we all drink it.
We all drink it. Yeah.
I'm not liking it. Like, it's very important. If from the mohawk to the pins to the patches of PBR, like these are things that you need.
Right. It's the 3 P's of punk, right? Pins, patches, PBR. Like that's it. That's the punk starter kit. They're available, I'm sure, on Amazon or all of your favorite retailers. So tell me, so how did you come up with the idea of like Zeke being a witch warlock, doing all the magic, like fighting monster? Where did that come from for you?
So what happened is, so I, like pointed out earlier, I'm old. So I have a daughter who grew up. She's 22 years old and she's living her life and doing all that. And then I have a 5-year-old. In between that, I've been very open in my comic career. Both my parents were drug addicts at various times and effects. And my worldview was kind of askew because of that. And they both died very tragically. My mom died because she went into recovery, and then she had surgery. And when she had surgery, she had an ulcer. It popped in her chest, and she died suddenly, just out of the blue. My dad overdosed of fentanyl. So these things were very tragic, and I just hated New Hampshire. I hated it. I didn't want to be there. Every time I go there, it's bad. Like, it's just bad, right? And even growing up, I needed to escape because of that lifestyle that was around me. I knew if I stayed there, I'd be on heroin, like a drug, like in jail. And in fact, my best friend growing up, I literally have videos of him getting shot down by police. I know I would have went down that path. I just know me. I know myself. So I had to go. I was creative. I was a little crybaby, as most of us punks are, a little too sensitive. And I just needed to go. I wanted to create film and do stuff. So my grandmother passed away. My grandmother was very important to me. She has none of those other bad qualities that the other two had. And she left me a decent amount of money. And I realized I wanted to I could write one comic, and it could be anywhere I wanted. And so this is the first comic when the Granite State one was the first one where I chose that artist. It was not what can I afford. It was I don't care what you cost. You need to do a punk rock book. So I knew I kind of wanted to do a punk rock something because I was really in punk lifestyle. Then I'm going to switch scripts for a minute. It's all going to, by the way. On the side, I was listening to a radio program, listening to talk radio. And there's it's FM, not AM, guys. So if anybody's, it's just like a podcast. So there's a guy on it. He was talking about how he went to his childhood home because he remembered a time capsule that he buried in the backyard. And he knocks on the door and he's like, "Hey, can I get that?" "Yeah, go ahead." And he gets it. He unlocks it. He gets this box and he's like, "I don't remember it being this," and brings it up to the house and was like, "Hey, I found the time capsule. Do you want to open it with me, lady who lives at this house?" And see what it does. And the lady goes, "That's my dead husband. You just unburied my dead husband."
Oh no.
Dropped it and ran. So that's his story. So I wanted to tell a story where your parents were serial killers.
Okay.
And then I just randomly wrote Granite State Punk. Like I took that idea. It was going to be, you're serial killers. You find out your parents are serial killers. You go back to your childhood home. You got to deal with it. And then I just started adding. I wanted to make it set. I randomly decided I'm going to make it set right in New Hampshire, right in Rochester, New Hampshire, right where I'm from. And then I started processing. And if you notice in the first couple of issues, like I really process what I hate about the state, like all the idiocies, all the things, much like, SSC Punk, where he talks about the Mormons and at Salt Lake City, how what he didn't like about it. But through that, I started recovering and starting to love the state again, and then once you realize this story about telling how much you love the state of New Hampshire or trying to refine your love of New Hampshire, it's got to be about the old man in the mountain. It's got to be about it falling down. It's got to be about that story. That's what it has to be about.
Yep.
So that's how it came about. And then I've just loved it. And I've loved becoming, because New Hampshire doesn't have a lot of people writing comics. Like I'm like fourth or fifth highest person. Like there's all the Ninja Turtles guys. There's the Tick guy. Yep. There's probably a couple other people who live there that I don't know were pretty good. Stephen King, I always discredit, even though he's writing comic. Joe Hill, whatever. And I'm there, like, because they're just like, "Oh, you wrote about us," like with stuff. And I love that. And I love to, just, I think we all want to be seen, right? Like, so I get to be seen. So that's where it came from. It's a love letter to New Hampshire. It's me processing everything I hate about the state and everything I love about the state at the same time. And missing stuff I love. I love writing about supernatural. So I love doing that. I love taking the lore of New Hampshire and writing stuff. It's got any of those New England states. I could have picked any of them, but they just have these beautiful lore from Massachusetts, to witch trials, to the Revolutionary War stuff, to all the cryptids that apparently live in all those things. And we hate Canada. All those things are right there. Just putting it all together in this nice hodgepodge of stuff. And we all hate each other, right? We'll talk. I'm from New Hampshire. I hate people from Massachusetts. They hate me, but we absolutely hate the Yankees. So anybody in New York, F them. We ally amongst our one sports team because none of us can afford to have our own.
Right. Yeah. Anytime I talk to anybody, I've had a couple interviews with some guys that are in, like, one was in Edmonton, one was in Vancouver. And so being in Ohio, like, we have the Blue Jackets, and like hockey's the only sport that I care about. And so I'm like, yeah, well, I mean, I like the Blue Jackets are fine, but like Buffalo is actually the team that like I consider my team.
Right.
And so like talking to these people about hockey, it's like, we might not agree on the team that we root for, but all of us root against Boston because
Right.
screw Boston. I'm like, I have family that's like, right, like they're in Worcester, like right outside of Boston. And like they are hardcore Bruins fans because they live in Massachusetts. And I'm like, no, I can't do it. I can't. I have to root against Boston.
I mean, we got it all we all, the problem with New England sports too is we have a superstar in all four, right? Which I don't think anybody has that, right? We have the Tom Brady, we have the Larry Bird, we have the Wayne Gretzky, we have the Roger Clemens. Like, so we have like, and that's not even counting Babe Ruth, from back in the day. We did steal him, but that's fine. Were they still him? I don't remember.
History.
Somebody stole somebody, and I'm mad about it still.
Right. Yeah, because it shouldn't have been their team. It should have been your team. So,
right.
Absolutely. So, are you still? And this might, if you don't want to answer, that's fine. Are you still in New Hampshire? Did you end up moving back, or did you stay away and just love them?
If I don't want to answer that, do you not want to? Like, do you keep your New Hampshire vow very secret?
I don't know.
I live in Florida.
Okay.
But one of the positive things about this book is I come back 2 or 3 times a year for signings and get to see my family. And I'm the oldest brother of the 3. So my parents are dead. So I take that elder brother role very, very seriously. So I go back often, but no, I live in Florida now, about an hour outside of Orlando.
Okay. That's quite a difference in climate.
It is. Yeah. See, what happens, and this is a weird thing happens. So sometimes you go to a college and you have this thing called premarital sex. Maybe you've heard of it. It's interesting.
Okay.
It's a thing.
Yeah.
Okay. You want the sex part, but you don't want the kid part. But sometimes that happens.
Yeah.
And then you just raise a kid and stay here for the rest of your life. Luckily, you find a wife who's from New England, so you get it, because you had to find someone from New England in the state, or life would have been bad. Because there's certain values,
Yes.
New England people, gets cold. Well, it gets cold in Ohio, right? It gets cold.
Yeah. It gets cold. Yeah.
We have a weird attraction to women in sweaters, right? Like we don't need like this. We like the layers. It's nice,
right? It's fun with your imagination, right?
Right,
like,
exactly.
Okay, all right.
We got to figure those things. It's exciting.
We have gotten completely out of track.
I think we're right on track. This is it's like unwrapping a present, much like a book of Granite State Punk.
We have the 3 things that we were going to hit, and I think we have hit one of them, which is totally good. Like, that's the beauty of just having a conversation. Is like you get to talk about, I also so I was a dad when I was 19.
Okay.
Because of like the college thing. And it is very different. I had a very different college experience than the rest of my friends, because they were all like, let's go party. And I was like, I gotta go buy diapers. And so like drastically different. And also like, I wouldn't trade any of it. It was hard. Like it was definitely not at all anything that I was prepared for. And I really only feel like in the last like 5-10 years, I have started to actually become the dad that I should have been the whole time. Sure. And like, my daughter is going into her senior year in high school, this coming school year. And so it's like, shit, you're about to go off to college. Like we're talking, we went on a college visit last fall, and now she's looking at a different college. And I'm like, hey, let's go on another visit. Like, because she wants to go, and I think she wants to just get away from like parents and family, because she lives with her mom and stepdad. And she's like, I think she just needs to go and figure out who she is, instead of like, because she was always like, we were the first parents of our friends. And so it was always like, well, if we do anything, like she's coming. And so she just grew up with people that were like 18 years older than she was. Yeah. And so now that she's in high school and she has her own friends, I think there's still part of that like identity thing of figuring out, who she is in the midst of all of the family stuff and the baggage that we've ended up, inadvertently dumping on her.
Right.
And so I'm the one that's like, no, go, just go. You want to go to North Carolina? Go to North Carolina. You want to go to Florida? Go to Florida. Like, just go and figure it out, because you have to. Because like, if you just get stuck in the same thing, like very similarly, I could have had a very different pathway had I not wanted so drastically to change my circumstances. So like, hearing you say like mine weren't nearly as drastic as yours.
Sure.
But like, everybody has their stuff, right? We were talking about it a little bit before we came on. Everybody's got their stuff that they're dealing with, and everybody's stuff is valid for them. And so it, like, talking about that stuff is important. Like, just pick up the phone if you're going to talk to stuff. So I guess, like, for a very brief little soapbox here, I'm going to say, like, anybody that's listening to this right now or watching it or whatever, like, if you've got stuff that you don't know what to do with, like, for the love of God, talk to somebody. Like, pick up the phone and talk to somebody, because you have more people in your life that are willing to listen and help than you're probably aware of. So like, do the thing. And soapbox. But like, it gives a very different perspective on life, going through the angry punk stuff and then getting into ska where it's like, I'm angry, but I have a trumpet. And then like, the world sucks and I have a trumpet. And I still like a lot of the same music, but I feel differently about it when I listen to it now. Cause I'm like, yeah, I remember that time in my life. And now, instead of being angry about it, like, I just want to make it better. Right. So, like, whatever I can do to make something better, that's what I want to do. And that's, trying to keep things positive. And also, like, this is a safe space, right, as much as a podcast can be, of like, when you like, if I'm not going to shy away from tough conversations, and I know I'm the one that kind of drove it here, but and now that to juke out of it is going to be a hard transition, but like, we're going to do that thing and we're going to juke out of it. So what like, being the crusty old punk that you are, what role do you see music influencing your like creative process, or does it?
Yeah. So what's really interesting is I was never a hardcore punk, but I always loved punk. So it's kind of a weird thing. Because of my life situation, one of my skills that I learned to survive was to just be friends with everybody. And I know a lot of people say that, but like, I needed it to survive. So I'm really good at it. It's why I'm a good salesman. It's why I'm good at selling my stuff. So I played the Tribes very well. I was on the football team. I was also in band and chorus, right? The two exact opposite spectrum, because I didn't want to be left out. I wanted to be voted. It's I've said it a couple times to say I wanted to be important. For me, when you talk about, love and punk, my favorite band, and a lot of time when I go to these punk rock like interviews, there's just, what's your favorite punk band? I was like, I can give you the answer you want, or I could give you the real answer. Which one do you want? And they're like, well, want the real one. I was like, it's at this age, it's me first in the gimme gimmes. I love that shit. I love happy punk rock, things that just make me excited to listen to the type of music I like, that are playing all the different genres of music to really excite me and do stuff. But if you want that stuff, of course it's Rancid or Sex Pistols, of course it is, or the Clash. It's all the classic stuff. I can give you some more modern if you want, but this day and age, that's the stuff that I like. And when I listen to music now, I listen to things that are very heavily that deal with the creative process, or have a voice that really speaks to me. Like, I'm a huge fan of Fun, of the band Fun. Like, he really speaks to me. I've listened to him in interviews. I don't think I'd like that guy at all. Like, something about his lyrics and his songs, and I'm like your brokenness is the exact same as mine. My family's really into AJR right now, which is weird. Okay. But if you've ever listened to it, they talk about the creative process, and like talk about how they talk about how their music doesn't sell as much as they want. They talk about how they haven't blown up in Chicago and how much they've sacrificed to do the thing. And as I'm making comics and I have less friends around me, I used to have game nights. I used to go out Friday, Saturday, Sunday to go out and do it. Now I'm doing interviews with people like you and going conventions or doing cons, and I'll occasionally see a Marvel movie because I don't have time to see a real independent film that I love and enjoy, because I can't risk it not being good and me missing a podcast or missing a writing day, right? Because that's the process that I'm on right now. So I've got all that stuff in me and trying to live through that. But yeah, I'm still angry.
He says as he laughs. Yeah, absolutely. I think there's always so I very similarly, if we do the confession time,
sure. Let's get it all out.
Let's just process,
we're both old parents, you're at the time that I remember you when that kid has to leave and you don't know what that world is without your kid. I spiraled for a year. So just so you're aware. So good luck.
Yeah. Thanks for that. Appreciate that a lot. I'm kind of already dealing with it. Like once she started, so she does cheerleading and like competitive cheer. Yeah. She has always loved dance. And like, honestly, that was the best thing for our relationship because I was at every game. I was taking her to the competitions, do it like, I get shirts made that have a giant picture of her face on it. And so like I went all in on all of that. And then when it's not cheer season, I'm like, what am I do? She's working 3 jobs. Like she has a boyfriend. She's doing like social things. And
and now, is she smarter than you?
Yeah.
Okay. No, my daughter's way smarter than me. Not socially, but like educationally. Like, yeah. And just to give you, on my case, I do want you to finish, but I'm a heavy liberal. Her mom is heavy conservative. Like we should have never been together. So my daughter has this weird mix of crazy, ridiculous values that are a mix of both. And I'm like, that's your mom talking, and that's me talking. Don't let your mom hear that. Like,
yeah. She definitely, because we split. She wasn't even 1 when her mom and I split, and so like she has always had the mom stuff and dad stuff. And as a child of divorce, I also had the mom stuff and dad stuff. And because I'm a child of divorce, I never wanted to pit her in the middle of the shit that I had with her mom. Right. Like, because my parents used to do one of my parents used to do the what was going on? How's that? And like always wanted to try
the house. Who's over there, right?
Yeah, like, what did you do? How much time did you spend together? Well, and it's come on, like, don't pit me against him because you have a problem. Like, your problem's with him, not with me. Like, why am I in the middle? So I never wanted my daughter to be stuck in the middle or have to play the parents against each other.
Sure.
And so because of that, I am definitely my father's son, where now, like, I talk to my dad. He lives an hour away from me, and I talk to him every couple months, and then we'll get together. And then suddenly it's like, we talk every week, and then we go to every few months, and then we see each other. And then so it always has this rubber band thing. Right. And I find that I'm doing the same thing with my daughter, where it's like, I don't want to be in the way. I don't want you to feel like I'm a helicopter dad. Like, do your thing. I'm going to encourage you doing your thing. And also, like, don't forget about me, please. Sure. And now, because when I was 17, I was home to sleep, maybe, because the rest of the time I was either working, or hanging out with my friends. Right. And so, I wanted to make money so I could afford a car, so I could drive around my girlfriend, so I could take her to the movies and, do the things and all the stuff. Sure. And as a result, I just was never home. And so now it's because that's still very fresh to me, even though high school was 20 years ago, right. It still is close enough that I'm like, no. She's 17. When you were 17, you were never home. You didn't talk to your parents, or you did as little as possible. Right. And so it's already the coping of she's her own person. Yeah. And that's weird because I find now that I just want her to be 6 again. That was when I was like, that's when she looked at me like I was the hero.
Right.
And ever since then, like I had it and I peaked and I didn't realize it when I had it. And now I'm like, can I just get that again? Because now I get the like random errant, like, hey, by the way, I went to prom last weekend. I'm like, why didn't I know? Like, oh, you didn't even tell me. So I'm already dealing with that. So now I'm trying to just like take charge of it, of like, okay, well, you're going to go to college, because she's way more driven than I was. I was very much like, I'm going to go to college because everyone says I have to go to college.
Right.
And then like I was fine with being a student, and so fine, in fact, that I took 5 years and 9 majors and 3 universities to get my degree, because I just liked learning stuff and I didn't want to like have responsibility after the fact. And so she knows exactly what she wants to do. It has been the same since she was 10. She wants to be a physical therapist and work with students in schools. And I'm like, good on you. Like, how do I encourage that? And so now I'm just trying to be her cheerleader. And it's funny, like when I stopped trying to be the parent that I thought I was supposed to be, and instead started being the parent that she needed me to be, like, it's so much better. And I just had to let go of the like, no, this is what a good parent needs to be doing. And it was like, no, she just needs me to shut up and listen and like be there when she needs me to be there. And if she needs me to be her chauffeur for the weekend, I'm going to love being her chauffeur for the weekend. And so it's just stuff like that that you don't realize until you realize it. And then once you do, you're like, God, that's so obvious. Like, of course she just needs me to shut up and listen. Like, what am I trying to do? So, but I think, I don't even remember how we got here. We were just sharing and being authentic. And
I think, you know, when you have kids that are at that age, you know, it's tough. It's what you think about. And, you know, I'm sure I brought it up, and being very similar paths, you know, for me, you know, like I said, I spiraled a little bit because, you know, my daughter didn't need me. She wanted to move out at 18, you know, so she was moved out the minute she could. And, you know, and she didn't want to talk. She wanted to separate. And I was scared, you know, so I pulled in all the directions that were wrong. You know, but, you know, I had a really good friend of mine who said, he's like, do you believe you did a good job as being a parent? Like, really, do you believe it? Like, don't bullshit yourself. You really believe? I was like, I think I was the best parent. I was always there. I did stuff. I was always there for crying and all that stuff. She's like, then don't worry about it. Like, if you did a good job, it's going to come. And it took a year, and then a year she needed me again. And then we built a relationship with what that looks like since then, you know. And, you know, sometimes we have tough conversations. We had one yesterday, you know, where I was in the car. I was like, hey, man, maybe you shouldn't quit that job 4 months in, you know, to go to this other job with your boyfriend. It's probably not going to work out. But she's like, you don't know. And this, I was like, I understand all these things.
Yeah.
And I understand I don't know all the variables. But as your dad, I have to tell you the tough stuff because that's what dads do. Yeah, and I hope it works out. I hope it's awesome. Everything you're saying is 100% right, and that my intuition of knowing you for as long as you've been alive is wrong. I hope that is the case. But I'm going to give you this wise dad advice to help you on your journey, whether you ask for it or not.
Right.
Calling me to pick you up at the airport. It's your fault.
Right. Just remember this moment right now, because I'm not going to say I told you so. I'm just going to be like, remember that time in the car? Remember? So do you find that you like write some of those experiences into your stories? Because Granite State Punk isn't the only book that you write. Like you've got a lot of stuff going. Like, do you find that, you know, it like life bleeds into your books?
I'm not trying to offend any creator who listens to this interview. I don't believe it's worth writing if you don't. I believe you need to have something to say. You need to have something. Don't just. I don't want something just to exist. I want it to have a stronger purpose, right? You know, I don't. This guy's cool. He has jetpacks. Like that's never going to be me as a writer. Like. There's always going to be layers. Granite State Punk is probably the most personal. It's probably the closest to me as a person. Zeke is definitely not me, but anybody who knows me goes, oh, that's broken me, right? When I'm in my worst states that Zeke is me. I'm all these things, but there's certain things that I make that very characteristic. I love people. Zeke hates people. Like there's things that I put in there to make sure there's a line of separation. Like this is a fictional character versus that.
Right.
But no, all of my stuff have an extra layer of stuff and processing stuff and dealing with it, because I think that's what you pay for, right? You pay for someone to tell you a story, but you're also paying for a part of that. I believe you're paying for part of that person's soul. Like what makes you tick? What makes your voice special? What have you gone through that I'm going to resonate with and deal with? And I'll say it here. It hasn't been announced, but Zeke is also a single father. So he's going to be going through that stuff. And it's got to, but unlike me, because I read a lot of my worst fears. I was a good single father. I was 50-50. I would not take, I wasn't going to be a weekend warrior father. I wasn't going to do any of those things. Zeke is the opposite. So it's like the fear of me. So what if I was just a once every month, one weekend, all that stuff. What does that look like? So we're going to explore that in the second volumes when we come up through that stuff, because I think that those fears need to be expressed as well, and those unique voices. I think that those come out of the page, and I think that those are what people want to see.
That's cool. So what I'm hearing is when we get there, Zeke is gonna wreck me. Got it. Okay. Okay, yeah, check.
I mean, if Zeke didn't wreck you in the coven, you haven't been through enough relationships. And so many people on the last page go, dude, I've been there,
Yeah.
I think every man, we finally get rid of our stuff and find that one woman or man, where we just be vulnerable and we just break down and we're just like, I need you, because I don't know how. I didn't realize I need you, but I need you, and I don't know how to survive without you. Like there's this brokenness to every human being. I think it's a human being that we go through. And then sometimes it happens like that, and sometimes that person doesn't know how to respond and you get rejected, which is a whole nother story, which we'll get at some point. Spoiler is part of what we see on the other side. What happens when it goes the other way? Because Zeke was not that guy, the person that came to him like that.
So it sounds like you've got a whole lot of stuff planned for Zeke. Is that accurate?
Yeah, I never want to stop writing it. I honestly, I never want to stop writing it. I wish I could afford to do it as a series. I wish I could be 1, 2, 3 stuff. It's a very expensive book. I don't make enough with it to get to that level that I need to be. But yeah, I plan on telling stories with Zeke for as long as I can. I want to push it. Issue 5 is going to be the first trade volume. So we're going to wrap some stuff up. We're going to change some status quo, and then we're going to do some stuff. Zeke is very much, a lot of people compare him to Constantine, right? Because I always read the John Constantine when he's punk and stuff. And I'm like, there is that comparison. They kind of look alike. I get all that. But the difference is in one of the standards of it, Zeke, not only does he not care about magic, he doesn't want to be good at it, nor will he ever be good at it. He may have his moments like he's had, but he is not going to be John Constantine. He's not going to be, it was a long con. No, he doesn't care about it or think about it enough. And that's the biggest difference between the characters, as well as the stream of conscience and the crazy psyche and get in his own head, and young versions of him come out and deal with stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that. Seeing like young Zeke with the giant freaking mohawk.
Right.
And, like, are you kidding me? Like, come on, man. Like, remember, come on. Like, I think that's such a fun, like narrative tool to use, of then hearing the voice of the same character when they're younger, but still like addressing current them.
Right.
I just say, like, it gives you a whole nother understanding of, like, if I were 16-year-old me and I met me now, 16-year-old me would definitely have things to say. And they would probably start with like, you still live in Ohio? Yeah, well, things are going to happen for you in about 3 years. And yeah, we're still in Ohio. And like, it's kind of really nice,
Well, and I wanted to do that, Garb, because there's a difference between talking to an old grizzled punk and a young punk. And both are great, but you'll notice that the older you get, the less band shirts, the less the less costume you have, and you just love the music, but you still have that attitude. So from day one, I wrote Zeke like that. I wrote, he has his hairstyle is a faux hawk because he had a mohawk at one point. He's let it grow out. Yeah. He doesn't wear band shirts because he's come to the realization that that's just part of the market and the ski. Like all those things are purpose, but I wanted to show that was intentional. And I realized like deep in, even though I put all that effort in, I hadn't showed it on the page. So I was like, all right, I need to show that on the page and show that. And I really deal with the Zeke psyche. In fact, in this, again, another spoiler for this upcoming issue, we deal with other versions. We deal with another version of Zeke from a different part of his life. Because for Zeke, we have young Zeke, which is his true self, who he was at 16. We also have that version of everybody who, this is the version that I tell everyone I am. So there's that 16-year-old Zeke, which almost looks like adult Zeke because, he's coming from an adult perspective on the things he did, right? And he's the hero. Then we have the one that looks like your father, that's the emblem. And then we have the one that's crying and emo. Like those are the 5 psychics of Zeke, and we have them all in the next issue as we delve deep into what makes Zeke tick. And they're not going away. It's going to be, I'm going to get crazier and crazier with this stuff because I really want to get into the psyche of what a person's like. When I broke the fourth wall and wanted to make this a fourth wall book, I was like, okay, I'm doing Deadpool, I'm doing She-Hulk, but how can I do this in a way that really is impactful? And that was the narrative that I thought of let's explain, not only have this guy speak, but give the freedom to different age versions of him having opinions about what's going on, just like our conscious and subconscious would ever go into a situation, right?
Yeah. God, that's like, how do you even begin to write that in like a script form to then like what is the interaction between you and the artist of like, here's this stuff? Is it like, are you a super planner of like, here's the full on script with the plot and the scene settings and all that stuff? Or are you just like, here's the dialogue, here's where I want to go, fill in the holes?
Yeah. So it's interesting because, obviously, Granite State Punk is a heavy text-based book because it's really him speaking is important. So a lot of that's leaned onto the letterer. So it's not even the artist; it's actually the letterer, like the different fonts for the different characters and all that stuff. That's super important. And kudos to him. If you don't know, last year he was nominated for a Ringo for Granite State Punk for the lettering of it, which is rightly deserved. So a lot of that is, all right, here's the different font for this character. Here's that, and building that and making it art. And because of it, it's the lettering is a third art form in the book, which I don't think a lot of book has it. Lettering, for most part, the best lettering is known to be you don't pay attention to it. It just flows. Where in Granite State Punk, it's the opposite. Lettering needs to be just as bright and as stuff because that's where the brightness comes. Because Patrick's art is sketchy and dark. It looks very punk rock, but it's sketchy and dark. But when you see punk on TV or visual, I mean, look at your shirt right now, or my shirt too. We've got the orange and pink. We throw all these extra stuff. I love Flogging Molly, by the way. So good. They're so great in concert. Anyways, so that's where the heavy lifting comes. You need to make this fun, right? So I'm going to write the dialogue to be witty and fun, and I'm going to break the fourth wall. I'm going to put dragons in here from Game of Thrones. I'm going to put cheers. I'm going to put all these other little elements into, but your job is to make it fun. So it's such a collaborative extra work. And even, my wife is my editor, but that's really on purpose. Like, she knows what part of my voice needs to be said. And I wouldn't trust anybody to cut down because you need to cut down my stuff. If you read my script versus what sees, there's probably 2 pages of extra stuff because I just stream of conscious a lot with Zeke. Yeah. And then I go, Patrick, your art is better than my writing because it just is. Like, it's just good. So I will cut down mine to make it work. But I want you to know my vision when you're writing all this stuff. And so that's how I play it out. So the scripts are loose, but I give him a lot of visuals. He's never been to New Hampshire, though. Man, that guy, like, I swear we have the same brain. He wrote my high school in issue 3. and the spacing between the door and the stairs is right. And I was like, you can't get that from a photo. Like you had to have been in my head. Like, there's no way you know that, because the photo doesn't tell you that, because it's a flat perspective. But that it's right. Like, I'm telling you, it's right.
Crazy.
It's never been there, but it's right. And it's so right that I was actually concerned about it and thinking about it before giving to you. Like, should I go there and do it from different angles? But you just knew.
That's wild. I mean, I guess that probably comes with a lot of experience,
sure,
on his end, of just like knowing different, like, I'm terrible with spatial things and like knowing depth perception, and like that's part of why I'm not an artist, because I just can't I can't do that. I can write, but like even my writing is usually like two-dimensional and very flat, and like I don't get the depth and all the extra stuff. But there has to be, I believe that artists for comic books have just like an extra sense where they can translate what the writer gives them, or what is talked about, or what the script is, or what the dialogue is, and they can just like make it real. And that to me is like a superpower. And I hate how like on the nose that is, but like that's not real. Like, real people can't do that. It's a magic thing within comics that you can take written word and like scene directions and then turn it into this very visual, very striking medium. Because like he goes hard on these books, and there's a lot of times where I'm like, I feel like I'm standing in the field as they're doing this spell. Like, everything feels so visceral and so real with it, that like his style matches the punk rock feel perfectly. Right. And so, yeah, like for you to be like, no, he's never been to New Hampshire. I'm like, but he, sure he has. Like, I assumed that you both lived in New Hampshire and drove by the Man in the Mountain like every day. Because I'm like,
I need to bring him. I flew him to Florida, but I need to get in New Hampshire. I want to do a con with him in New Hampshire, because I think it would be gangbusters, maybe with the trade. But no, he's never been there. But he gets it. He gets the voice. He gets the vibe. It does help that he's from Portland, Oregon. So I think that they've got that like
similar settings
vibe. Yeah. So I think the trees and stuff. I think the trees are similar. So at least we got that. But yeah,
it's crazy. Yeah, I mean, top marks for me. I'm stoked that issue 4 is coming, and then hearing that it's a character that you want to continue writing. Like, this was the first book of yours that I picked up. And then I ended up like spiraling into all of the Orange Cone stuff, because I was just like, man, you just freaking get, like, you just get it. And the voice that comes through the Granite State Punk books is, I feel like, even before we talked, I was like, no, this interview is going to be cool, because like I'm talking with a dude that I've known for years, and it's just because I've been reading your books for years that now it's just like, okay, yeah, like that's authentically you, and please keep making them, because I freaking love them. And I like telling people all the time, like, no, it like Kickstarter really took off for me when I started getting into creators like Travis Gibb, like, all these like Jason Powell, like all these other people that are putting out incredible stuff. And so do you find that you like Coins of Judas is different, like stylistically, than Granite State Punk? Do you find that you like want to bounce around and do, because you also have like breakdown, like genre wise, are you just trying your hand at like a bunch of different genres?
Well, so for Brokedown, that was growing up. I was really into Quentin Tarantino. I was really into Pulp Fiction. I was really into all that stuff. So I wanted to bring that to comics, because we have crime comics.
Yeah.
But nothing is in the daylight. Everything's dark and noir. So I was like, hey, I want to do it bright. I want to do it almost anime, but not anime, because I don't want it anime. I wanted to do it. It didn't work. I'll be honest. It was my first book. It's okay. Like, the book works. Like, the book has a great story. I'm not negative to the story, but people want noir. They want the dark lines. Everybody's ready to be like, if you redid this. I know. And then the other thing I did too, and again, being a rookie writer at the time, like I wrote the first issue exactly like a Quentin Tarantino script. And people feel that, and I vibe with that. But I realize that people read that, they're like, oh, this is a ripoff of Quentin Tarantino. This guy can't write. If you read all 5 issues, you realize, oh, this guy can write. That was me going, here's something familiar. I'm going to break that up and do my own thing.
Yeah.
I wasn't smart enough at the time to go, no, you're telling them you don't know how to write, which is not my intention.
Right. Very different.
Very different is my intention. My intention was like, you guys like this, I like this. I'm going to give you what you like, and then I'm going to show me like after. And then by the time they showed me, they're like, but you showed us Quentin. We like, why don't we get more Quentin crime? And you know, me being a Quentin crime guy, I was like, me too. He's doing these westerns and like. You know, he's doing weird stuff right now. You know, he's making Hollywood stories, like redoing. I don't know what he's doing right now. Like, I still like him, but like, I just want some Reservoir Dogs, man.
Right? Is it so much to ask for?
One more, and you're like, it was a Star Trek movie for a while. Like, what's going on? Like, please.
Yeah. Like, yeah. Come on, Quentin. Come on, man.
Kevin Smith, where you go, I'm going to try something new, but like, no, I'm bad at that. I'm going to go back to what I'm good at. Like, that's what I want. Can't you do that, Quentin? Come on.
Yeah.
Anyways, so Towards the Judas is, you know, all of them is very personal. So I tend to be supernatural. Like if I have one genre, it tends to be supernatural. You know, Towards Judas is kind of my superhero book. It's kind of like my Ghost Rider-ish book. You know, it's a finding the coins of Judas, you know, and hunting them down and being, you know, kind of fun. But it's got the Travis stuff, you know, it's got father issues and family issues and stuff, as well as a bunch of demons and coins and all that. And then we got Voodoo Nations, which is a series that I wrote for my wife. You know, when my mom died, I kind of spiraled for a little bit. That's be a pattern if you noticed. And Voodoo Nations is really my wife just being like, you know, I love this man. And even though I know, because I remember this week going, I don't know. I am never going back to who I was because I can't find that person. I keep trying and I don't know who it is. And I think that happens when you have your first death that matters to you. Like you never go back to that, like life is real. like life becomes real. You may have had an uncle die and you're like, oh, I don't get to see Uncle Sam, you know, and then, but when that person that is a milestone who you called, and that's a whole different thing. Yeah. And I remember being like, I don't know who I'm going to be on this other stuff. And I don't know if you're going to love that person because I don't know if I love that person. And trying to recover. And my mom, I think I told you my mom was a recovering alcoholic. You know, 4 months after she's dead, me and my brother are drinking in New Orleans. The most bastardized thing you could possibly do to my mom, but it's what we needed to recover. Like, because again, you got to go through your own process. Like, so that's what that is about. So it's a supernatural story based off of that, and based off, you know, what love means, and what there's a biblical term, you know, called one flesh, and what that means to me. You know, as someone who's separated and you know, much like you went through a divorce and separated, like, what does it mean to be married and becoming one flesh? And what does that really mean? Because when I love somebody, I love hard, like friends and everything. And even people randomly on the internet, like I'm very sensitive. If you hurt my feelings, like I take it personal. I'm probably not good. Like you can leave a bad review of me, but if you actively hurt me somehow, like I don't get over it quick. I'm not that guy. Like I really get hurt. And sometimes I go to war.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, especially like if you hurt someone close to me, like you better expect me with my pitchfork and torch to be knocking on your door.
Right.
Like, hi, I have something to say to you. Let me in now. Okay.
Yeah, my favorite character is Magneto. And a lot of people are like, why is Magneto your favorite character? Like, I have a whole shrine here. I don't know if you can quite see it, but I got a shrine.
Yeah. Okay. I saw the poster behind you. Yeah.
But I'll bring you over. See, like, it's a shrine.
Yep.
So in the duality of that, and why I love Magneto so much is just the, like, he's a guy who really wants to do what's right, but he doesn't always know how to do that, right? Yeah. And he's a guy who's really seen evil, and like he's trying to do good, but he can only do it from the perspective of what he was taught, which was evil. Like, and I really relate that, being, you know, a child drug addict, and yeah, I'm not evil, but right. That perspective of like, I have always tried to do the right thing. I have done it in the wrong ways many a times, but my intentions are always pure, regardless of the outcome may turn out. So I really relate to that. And that's why that character vibes with me. It's not because, you know, of all the stuff. And that's why he's on the X-Men half the time, because as we've grown and as society has changed, like he seems more right to everyone. Magneto was right.
Magneto was right. It is true. So did you get a chance to watch 97?
So my stepdaughter randomly watched X-Men with me and really liked it because I was trying to go through the 90s, and now I can't. And she's got to get through all of them, so I'm waiting. So now I'm in the rough Dark Phoenix stuff, because though the Dark Phoenix is really good in comics, it's really rough in the cartoon. If you know the story in the comics, you're just like, this is good, but like there's all this stuff being thrown at you. Like, here's a shirt, there's a lot of stuff being thrown on you for 30 minutes every episode.
Right. And not always for a good reason, right? Yeah. Like sometimes you're like, guys, it's one episode. Like, can you as a kid, I was like, this is the best thing ever. And then I read the comics and I was like, oh.
And we've seen it done wrong in movies. So like, I'm glad. I'd rather them throw more at me and go, there's just a lot, like, versus giving me nothing and going, that's the Dark Phoenix. And no, the fuck, that's not.
No, it isn't. No, that's Famke Johansson.
You did it twice, and both times. That's the most.
Right.
How can you mess the same thing up on a third movie both times? Like, you're really special. Like, it's really like, come on.
Yeah. Were you trying to match the same level of bad? Because you nailed it. But like, come on. Yep. No, I agree. So, all right. So Orange Cone Productions, how did that, this is the last of my planned questions.
Okay.
How did that come to be? Were you just like, I'm just going to start a publishing company that I can put my books out on? Like how did that, where did that come from?
Well, you know, going back to the earlier in the interview, you know, I had that kid. So I was writing comics in like 2003 to 2007. I wrote a couple of shorts and did some stuff. But then I decided to be a dad. I literally chose being a dad. And this is my own stuff. This has nothing to do with anybody. Like, my parents were crappy, so I decided that the only thing you can do is just take care of your kid. Like, all your shit's done. Your dreams are over. Like, that's just what I decided. No one told me that. No one said, but I decided those things. So I did all that, and then my beautiful wife, we were just talking one day, and you know, we're talking about me doing comics back in the day, and I was like, "Oh, let me show you." And I opened up a Google Drive and showed her a comic that it was broke down in 4 Dead Bodies. I showed her 2 issues of a comic that were completely done, and she's just like, "So let me get this straight. You have 2 issues of a comic book that you've never done anything with it, that you've paid for the art and everything, that you've never published or done anything." And I was like, "Yeah." She's like, "That's really dumb." I was like, "Well, no." She's like, "No, that's really dumb." And I'm like, yeah, that is pretty dumb.
You know, now that you mention it.
Because I knew about Kickstarter and all these things. And I'm an avid comic collector. Like, I know there's a lot of comic creators who don't actually read comics. And I hate you guys. Remember all the other times where like, I'm not throwing shade. I am throwing shade. Read the shit that's coming out if you want to be in the shit that's coming out.
Yeah.
I'm just saying. Just bare minimum, know what you're doing. Anyways, so I contacted a Kickstarter friend of mine because I've known a lot of these guys for years. Contacted one, and I contacted the original artist, and I was like, "Hey, are you willing to finish this?" And he's like, "Yeah." So I turned those 2 issues into 1 really good issue, and then we did another 4. In rock and roll, like it became a thing, and then I publishing company, and then I was like, "Oh, I'm liking this. Let me do another book." And the next book, and then I'm like, I don't want to do web design anymore. I own a web design company. I was like, I don't want to do that anymore. It's not fun. I want to do comics full time, so I'm trying to do that. It's very, very hard, but I want to do that. So that's what I'm doing, and it became a production company. But the whole purpose of Orange Cone Production was a name for me to publish stuff under. The Orange Cone means it was kind of a statement of what I felt at the time of what the company was going to be. Hey, when you see an orange cone, take caution, look at what's here. It could be something awesome. It could also be a pothole. Like, you don't know.
Yeah.
The orange cone just tells you to pay attention to it. And then you make your own decision of whether or not it's a pothole or we're unveiling the new Disney park. Like, it's going to be one of the two. I don't know which one it's going to be, but it's going to be one of the two. So that's where the orange cone came from. So now that we've done stuff, my wife's published under us. We've published probably 200 to 300 other creators, maybe even more than that, through our anthologies from Cthulhu Invades to Holiday Spirits to Hospice, and even small stuff like the Avocator, which you probably never heard of, the Collective. We've done all these things and really busted community. Because one of the things that I cannot do as a person is I'm a community builder. So you put me in any scenario, I'm going to be a community builder. You have me like selling coffee, and I'm going to get other coffee roasters from the community to come in. Like, that's just who I am. Like, I like community. I think community's good. I think people are good. Their opinions are not always good, but people in general are good.
Yeah. At their core, people can be very, very good.
Right. Right. The more layers that you know about them, you get a little upset. But as a core, I like people for the most part. So that's what it came to be. And now as we're progressing, I'm hoping that one day I can do enough books where I don't really publish under Orange Cone that much, and other people get to publish under Orange Cone because we have a brand, we have a people trust. Like you said, what is Orange Cone? There's people who've gone through our catalog who will buy anything with the Orange Cone logo, which is crazy to me because that was not the point. Well, it was the point, but it was supposed to be because my name was on it. But now I know for a fact a book on Kickstarter that I think looks good. If I put that Orange Cone logo on it, I could probably get them 50 to 60 more backers just because I put that logo on it. And what does that mean? What's that responsibility? And it's actually really interesting when I talk to other publishers because they're like, why do you want to publish with us? You've got your own thing. I was like, well, that was never my intention. I never wanted to be a publisher. In fact, that's a joke amongst other creators. They're like, Travis is the biggest publisher that doesn't want to be a publisher that I know.
So you're kind of like Zeke with the magic. Like, you're just like, I ended up here, but like, I didn't choose this path.
Right. I don't want to be a publisher. It's tough, and I want my wife to edit all my stuff. Like, I want Jerome to let her all these stuff. And they're like, well, you can't really grow with that. I was like, oh yeah, that's true. I need more hands, but I like these hands. I want to keep them here and trying to figure all that stuff out. But it's fun. And I love creating. I love putting stuff, I'm doing that Neil Gaiman 1,000 fans. Got to try to figure out how to get those 1,000 fans and figure it out. And so I love it.
Well, you've got one here in Ohio, so
thank you
for what that's worth. Yeah, but I'm doing the like based on your name thing. I don't have the money to do all the Orange Cone stuff.
Right.
But like anything that you're putting out, I'm like, well, that's going to be another Kickstarter that I back. Like, that's fine. Because I think that when you find creators that you resonate with, that the right tales that just strike a chord with you. Like, I have also, you can't see because it's hidden because it's a mess, but I'm surrounded by comics, like trades, floppy, like singles, anthologies, all like indie, mainstream, big two, all, you name it. Like, I have it here somewhere. And for me, it's like, if I find the creators that, aren't just another comic, but like I read it and I'm like, man, that's comics. Like, I'm going to give that creator all of my money. And there's a very short list of who those people are. But I feel like once you, like, if you can tap into, and I think that's kind of the Neil Gaiman like philosophy of like, find your core 1,000 people.
Right.
And then like, those are your people. So that's who you're writing for. Like, that's who you have in your brain. You know who they are. And so like, I think once you find that audience that just resonates with your voice, I think it becomes much easier because then you don't have to worry like who's gonna like this. You're like, oh no, I know exactly who's gonna like this. Like I know what's gonna resonate with them, and then it just makes the story stronger because you don't have to worry about trying to, do I write for me? Do I write for them? I think it just all kind of gets much more clear. So, all right. The last thing.
I want to stay there for a second because there's it's so one of the things that's so interesting when you get to these publishers. We started out with the publishing deals with Band of Bards and Scout.
Yep.
It's so interesting seeing those audiences where I've had people come up. I read your stuff on Comixology, like because I think I know all my fans, right?
Yeah.
Like because my Kickstarter fans, I know your name. I see you on the list. I send you the stuff, and if I know you more intimate, like you and I are getting now, I'm going to probably throw in something different or do something different to just go, hey, you remember this time that we did this thing? Like I saw this, let's be intimate. But then trying to find those other fans who are less intimate, but care about you just as much. It's easy when I'm in New Hampshire, right? It's easy. Oh, you resonated with Granite State Punk. Of course you did. It had the old man in it. But that being said, because my wife was there, she just recently came. She's never been to a New Hampshire con until recently with me. She was looking up and she's like, they use Granite a lot because there was like Granite State Dance. She's like, I was like, yeah. And we really is like, it really made me double think about what I was doing because I was always like, oh, it's just because there's so few comics. And that's a true statement. Yeah. But that word Granite State, they're immune to that. Like that's they've desensitized because of how often you see it. Just like what's around in Ohio, there's always that one thing that your city's about or whatever. I don't know what else to do with.
It varies, like because Ohio State is such a big university.
Oh,
like,
for college, yeah.
Everybody's a Buckeye, and so like Buckeyes are everywhere. Even though like I actively root against Ohio State because like while I enjoy the university, like their cancer treatment has helped my stepmom immensely. Like she is cancer free and has been for years because of the program and the doctors that work at Ohio State. So I no longer am like, boo Ohio State. Instead, I say, boo Ohio State fans, because they're the worst. Like they're just the worst. They're like if vegans also did CrossFit and went to Ohio State. Like that's all the same. Core of evil, right? So yeah, everybody like Buckeyes in Cincinnati specifically, everything is Houday because of the Bengals.
Sure.
And so like, yeah, and anybody that comes in, like my cousin was up from South Carolina for a concert, and he was like, I mean, like he's not a football person, so he was like, why is day spelled wrong, and why are they asking who day? Wouldn't it be what day? And I was like, okay, no, sorry, that's a Bengals thing. It's stupid, whatever. And so like I had to explain it to him because it's on every building downtown Cincinnati is just Houday, like everywhere, because everybody wants to be a part of the popularity of the Bengals.
Do women all wear spandex with Bengals outfit, like all the 90s?
It's not all of them, but it's a lot of them. Yeah.
Great.
Yeah. It's
never go to Buffalo Wild Wings in Ohio, is what you're saying. I got you.
Right. Yeah. Don't do that anyway, because you'll pull out feathers. They're my least favorite chain chicken wing place because I've that's so weird.
You have opinions on what's the best?
So Wings and Rings is
never
the best chain. It might be a regional thing. I'm not really sure. Because their wings are actually big, right? Okay. Like you feel like you're getting your money's worth when you buy Wings and Rings wings. Whereas at B-Dubs, it's like, oh yeah, here's a dinky like there's more breading than there is chicken. And I don't know. This is a weird tangent, but like
on Monday and Wednesday. So I mean,
right. Yeah. Like there's also that. And we have another one, Quaker Steak and like Quaker Steak.
The oil company is making wings?
Right? Yeah. Yes, they have like cars suspended from the roof and you like sit under a NASCAR and you're like, huh, is that up to spec? Like I have rigging licenses. Can I check that real quick? but they have all you can eat Tuesdays. And so you just go and you pay like $12.99 and you eat 74 wings to get your money's worth. And then you get rolled out of the building. And it's, it's great for a college kid.
My dream, if I ever made $1 million, I want to start opening a restaurant that is on a dock that literally it's on boats, like docked boats. That's where you have your meals. And it's like one of those 3-story docking boats things. I think it would be fantastic. I don't know if it would work or anybody would make any money, but I think it'd be neat to have a restaurant on a boat next to other boats and kind of chilling.
Hey, if you ever want to come to the Cincinnati Comic Expo, we can have dinner on the dinner boat. We have one.
Okay.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. So it's the B&B
I've
River
heard about the Cincinnati Expo. It's on my list. I still have to go. I haven't gone to Heroes yet. And then I'm not going to New York Comic Con or San Diego Comic Con until I have a reason to be there. Because I'm such a comic fan, and I've noticed that other comic fans feel the same. I'm not going to go and just get an Artist Alley table. I need to be making an announcement. I know that it's not as important as it used to be, but I need to be going to making an announcement with somebody. I don't care what it is. It could be a small little publisher. They're like, hey, can we announce at San Diego Con? I will be there in a minute, but I'm not going until I get that announcement, because I remember when I was 16 years old, refreshing Newsarama to figure out what Spider-Man crossover, who's taking over Avengers next year.
Yeah. Yep. It's funny because my wife and I, my cousin works for Marvel. He's the Nick Fury of the Marvel Legends action figure line. Okay. And he is in a documentary on Netflix, The Toys That Made Us. My cousin's in that. Nice. And so he knows that I'm a huge comic person, and it even way back when I was tiny, and he was in high school, and I just looked up to him because he could do artwork really, really well and all the things, and he just had all the nerd stuff, and I was like, no one else is like us, because my other two cousins, the one is built like a brick wall and is now a fire chief, and the other one is super musically talented, and then he's super artistic, and then there was me, and I was like, I can't do any of that stuff. I enjoy it, but so he lives in Rhode Island, and he'll send me pictures from San Diego of him just rubbing elbows with all these creators. And I'm like, you son of a, he was in the table reading for Captain America Civil War. He was in the room when they read the script the first time. Why? I have no idea. But by God, he told me about it, and he told me every detail about it. I was like, and so now it's just anytime I see him, I'm like, hey, asshole. And he's like, hey, dick. And that's just our, I really want to get him on the show, because I just want to be able to call him a dick in front of everybody. Right. And not just my family, but yeah. So he goes to San Diego all the time and just sends me all the pictures. I'm like, you no good, dirty, rotten. Yeah. So I would love to go to San Diego at some point and just sleep on his hotel floor. And until then, I just sit on Twitter and refresh the hashtag to see what is happening in real time at the convention.
Well, are you big enough where if you go to your con, are you big enough with your YouTube yet from the old one where you can get at least a press pass, or you're hoping next year because of all this?
I'm playing my cards for next year.
Nice.
Yeah. That's what I'm aiming for. I am already a town just north of here. I emailed, they're putting on their first convention in September. And so I emailed them hey, if you need someone that can, host some panels or whatever, I know a guy, just to try, I want to A, go to more cons, and B, I would love to end up with a press pass and have a reason to be at a convention to work one. And I hear that they're a ton of work, and I've worked conventions for friends of mine, worked their booths and stuff. So I'm aware of that. And I've never had the issue of talking to people just because I can talk to anybody about anything at any point. So, I would love eventually to get the press pass, and I'll manifest it now because I've never said it out loud. I would love to have a press pass in the next 5 years to one of the big conventions. Yeah. That's a goal of mine, and I don't know how to make that happen, but it's out in the world now. So
It's there.
It's there. We're going to manifest it. So before I let you go and get back to your regular life, I always like to just turn the floor over to you. If there's anything that you've got on your heart, on your mind that you just want people to know, could be about your book, could be about you, could be about something completely random. Just the floor. This is an open forum for you to say whatever it is that you have to say.
Imagine I went to like a racist tirade, like
that's not hateful. Yeah, I should. Got it.
It's political season. Are you sure you want to say these things? Like, today, good sir.
I had a guest that was like, I'm a very political person. I was like, oh, here we go.
All right.
And then it ended up being okay, but that'll be publishing in a couple weeks. So, come back for that.
No, I think we talked about a lot of stuff. I think I really enjoyed being on the show. I think we talked about a lot of stuff that I don't normally talk about. My daughter, I talk a lot about stuff, but thanks for having me on. If anybody wants to find me, you can find me at travisgibb.substack. I'm very personal. I do stuff like this probably every quarter or so. I'll write a very personal message about comics because I want to be true. I want you to be able to peer in my life, and I want you to see reflections of who I am in my writing and back and forth. Like I started in the beginning. I don't want to write things just to get things on paper to sell you something. I want to write something that inspires you or touches you or like makes you feel something. Because if you don't feel anything, I didn't do my job. So that's what I want to do. And I think we shared a lot of stuff about growing up and punk rock and all stuff. So I appreciate it. I can't wait to do another one of these. This is a great talk.
Awesome. I appreciate you hanging out. What's the easiest way? Is Substack the easiest way for people to find you?
Yeah, Substack's the easiest way. That's where I do stuff. You can always go to orangeconeproductions.com to buy any of my books. If when this airs, Coins of Judas just came out. So if you want to go to the comic store, go ahead and call them. You can get Granite State Punk and Coins of Judas. You can call them. They may have it in their local store already. If they don't, they can order it from Diamond and try to get a copy in, and we can see what we can do for you. So
awesome.
Yeah, the Kickstarter.
I'll make sure that the Kickstarter is linked in the video description. I will tag your Substack as well, and also orangeconeproductions.com, so that it's super easy. You don't have to think. You can just expand the video description, and everything that you need to find Travis and all of his books will be there. Dude, I really, really thoroughly enjoyed this conversation. Thanks for being open and vulnerable and authentic. And I look forward to the next time we can chat. Hopefully, maybe it'll be in person at a con at some point. And until then, I look forward to keeping up with you on social media. So,
yeah, thank you. Live free or die.
Absolutely, live free or die. Isn't that like the New Hampshire like tagline?
That is a New Hampshire slogan. I address it a lot in the book, but I've actually started to embrace it in my life. I really like that attitude. I like the no option. Like or die, like that's it.
Or die, yeah.
Right. You live or die. And based on what I see on the world, as I shared, I'm liberal. The definition of freedom for me versus other people are very, very different. But the alternative is die. So
yeah, live free it is.
What are you gonna do?
Right. Well, every I feel like every podcast has to have a tagline, and mine of sorts is that's going to be it for this interview, punks. I appreciate you tuning in. Follow the show so that you can be in tune with all of these indie creators. And until next time, do what's good for you, do what's right, and go read some indie comics. This is Longbox Punk. That's Travis, and we are out of here.